Hey, 8th graders, welcome. You know that feeling when you look at a totally messy room or cluttered desk and think, wow, this is literally just chaos? Well, sometimes the universe looks exactly like that too. Just a giant, overwhelming jumble of stuff. But the incredible secret of science is that it's not random at all. There are highly specific rules going on behind the scenes. So today, we're going to be scientific sleuths. We're going to figure out exactly how to find order in all that chaotic matter. To really ground what we're doing today, our source material from heroesmartacademy points us to a very specific philosophy, starting with this quote from 1 Corinthians 14:40. Let all things be done decently and in order. In this curriculum, that biblical truth is basically the absolute foundation of all scientific classification. The whole idea here is that as scientists, our job isn't just to memorize a bunch of boring facts. We're actually trying to bring order, understanding, and even a real sense of peace to chaotic materials.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our quick game plan for today's explainer. 1. The order of matter. 2. Why classify matter. 3. Tools to test matter. 4. Real-world classification examples. 5. Your science homework challenge. And 6. Education, morality, and peace.
All right, section 1, the order of matter. Let's go find those rules.
You see, scientists aren't just sitting around making random guesses about the world. They actively bring order to it through hands-on investigation. So here's what you're going to master by the end of this lesson. Consider it your roadmap. First, you'll learn how to sort substances into distinct categories based on their unique properties. Second, you're going to learn how to use specific tools and tests to properly identify different types of matter. And third, you'll see how classifying matter actually keeps things super safe when you're working in a real lab setting. Moving right along to section 2, why classify matter. These are absolutely skills for your future. Now, it's totally fair to ask, why do I even need to learn this? Well, applying these classification skills prepares you directly for future lab work. It literally builds the deep foundation you absolutely need for STEM careers. Science, technology, engineering, and math. But honestly, even beyond that, it sharpens how you observe the everyday world. It improves your precision with measurements, and it gives a massive boost to your critical thinking. You're not just sorting stuff. You're literally training your brain to think like a professional scientist.
Section 3, tools to test matter. Time to be a science detective.
Yep, it's time to put on those detective hats. We can actually find nature's invisible fingerprints using a super clear 3-step method: observe, test, and combine. First, you just observe the physical properties. That's the stuff you can easily see or feel, right? Like color, state of matter, or texture. Next up, you apply simple, targeted tests. And then finally, you combine all those properties you found to get a totally accurate identification. It's pretty much a foolproof system when you do it right. So, let's talk about that active testing phase. What kind of simple tests can you actually run on matter? Well, you can check for solubility, like, does the substance dissolve in water? You can test for magnetism. Will a magnet stick to it? Or you can just observe how it reacts to heat. By running these simple tests, you refine your classifications and start acting exactly like a true scientific investigator out in the field. Okay, section 4, real-world classification examples. Let's solve some mysteries. We're not just going to talk theory today. Let's actually look at some case studies together. Example 1, sorting metals. Imagine you have this massive, chaotic pile of steel and aluminum. How do you separate them without picking through it piece by piece? You use the physical property of magnetism. Steel is magnetic, so it's attracted to a magnet. Aluminum, not magnetic at all. So just pass a strong magnet over the pile and boom, separating them becomes incredibly simple and orderly. Let's see how this builds in our second example, separating sand and salt. If you mix these two together, pulling them apart by hand is practically impossible. But if we cleverly use physical properties, we can do it in 3 easy steps. Step 1, add water. The salt dissolves because of its solubility, but the sand just sits there. Step 2, filter out the sand. Now you've just got salt water left. Step 3, evaporate the water using its boiling point, which safely leaves the pure salt behind. Pretty clever, right? And that brilliantly illustrates our third example, identifying mystery liquids. Let's say you've got some unlabeled mystery liquids sitting there. You can test things like their density and boiling points. The result? You match those samples to known substances and quickly narrow down what they could be. And the absolute best part is, you can do all of this using physical properties without ever causing chemical changes to the liquids themselves. It's all about observation. All right, section 5, your science homework challenge. Let's put those skills to the test. Don't think of this as a chore. Look at this challenge as a rapid-fire opportunity to show off your new sleuthing skills. Let's look at the first 2 questions. Question 1, describe one physical property to classify matter. Think back to those visual fingerprints we talked about earlier, like color or texture. Question 2, give one example of a classification test. Remember those active tests we said you could run in the lab? Moving on to 3 and 4. Question 3, explain why multiple tests improve accuracy. For this one, try to remember our observe, test, combine rule. Question 4, name a property that could separate metals from nonmetals. If you remember the magic of our steel and aluminum example, you already know the answer to this one for sure. And your final challenge. Question 5. Suggest a safe method to separate a mixture of sugar and water. Here's a huge hint for you. Think about how incredibly similar this scenario is to the salt and water trick we walked through just a couple of minutes ago. Finally, Section 6, Education, Morality, and Peace, Developing a Spiritual Mind. Let's slow down for just a second as we wrap up. The foundational philosophy of this Hero Smart Academy series grounds exactly why we learn these scientific principles in the first place. The curriculum contrasts 2 different paths. It teaches that education without morality ultimately just leads to bad choices and hurt. Because really, what's the point of being highly educated if your choices just cause pain? But on the flip side, education paired with a spiritual mind, based on Romans 8, leads to a vastly different outcome, a really profound peace of mind. Which brings us straight to the biblical morality tip provided in the source. God designed creation with order and structure. When we classify matter, we reflect His creativity and wisdom. The core idea being presented here is that our scientific sleuthing, trying to classify, understand, and care for this world, isn't separate from faith at all. It actually acts like a mirror, reflecting God's creativity. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative question to think about today. How will you use your education and a spiritual mind to bring order and peace to the world around you? Take these amazing new STEM skills, pair them up with a strong moral foundation, and keep looking for that beautiful structure hiding right there in the chaos of the universe. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to see what you discover next.